Welcome to the April 2021 quarterly Mountain States Regional Genetics Network Genetic Ambassador Call. And we are so glad you all are here today. This will be our last quarterly call for this grant year, which ends on May 31st. And I have a little bit of a change in our agenda for today. We usually start off with introductions, but we're going to start off with a guest speaker today, which is Molly Marsky from the National Genetics Education Family Support Center, which we all call the Family Center because that is a mouthful. We'll go into introductions after that, but my name is Christy Weiss. I am the projects manager for Mountain States and also lead the consumer engagement projects and initiatives within Mountain States. And I'm going to introduce Molly and let her introduce herself as well. But please join me in giving a warm welcome to Molly Marsky. She's a senior program manager from, as I said, the National Genetics Education Family Support Center, also known as the Family Center, which is a grant that is part of the three-legged stool, I like to call it, with National Coordinating Center, the Regional Genetics Networks, and the Family Center. And Molly comes from Expecting Health, and I'll let her take it from there.
Yeah, thank you, Christy, and thank you all for having me today. I'm excited to come. I always say that these are my favorite conversations to have with people. I call it the real people doing the work. So not that anybody else is not doing the work, but I always feel that when you get family leaders together and stuff like that, it's some of my very favorite people in the world. I reside in Green Bay, Wisconsin. So, but I do work for Expecting Health, which is based out of Washington, DC. And Expecting Health actually is kind of like a subset of Genetic Alliance. So if you haven't heard of Expecting Health, many people have heard of Genetic Alliance. So we're all the same family. It's just Genetic Alliance is focusing on a little bit different things, whereas Expecting Health really is looking at that family, that patient experience as we move through the system of care, whatever that may be. So Expecting Health is looking more on trying to infuse that patient or that family experience versus some of the work that Genetic Alliance is focused on, such as registries and some of the more scientific genetic pieces of things. I started at Expecting Health about 6 months ago, almost 7 months ago now. So I was told that I can still use this whole year as saying I'm new to the program. So I will fully use that for a full year. So yeah, so I'm still relatively new, but I came to Expecting Health from Hands and Voices. Almost all of my experience around family leadership, family engagement, those type of topics come from my work with Hands and Voices. I am the parent of 3 young adults, and my oldest and my youngest have profound hearing loss. So they were both born deaf. And like I said, most of my experiences with that in that newborn hearing screening, the EDDI system, so the early hearing detection and intervention, that world. But I saw this opportunity last October at Expecting Health to come work at the Family Center. Like Christy said, it took me forever to get that initials down, that National Genetics Education and Family Support Center. But Family Center works so much nicer. And it's unfortunately, usually HERS is pretty good, but it's one of those acronyms that just does not, like, you can't say it into any sort of word or anything like that. But yeah, so I came over to the Family Center. Like Christy says, we're one of those 3-legged stools. So whereas you have the RGNs that work, in each of the regions, then you have the National Coordinating Center, which kind of helps provide assistance to the RGNs as they work in that. The Family Center works as well nationally across the 7 RGNs, and we work to help ensure that there's family engagement, family leadership, that family voice within each of the RGNs. So we don't work in a particular region, but across all of them, trying to see if we see things across all of them, as well as trying to be that place where we could try to embed that family voice. So I sit on tons of meetings with people, but we try to be that connector. So as some of the RGNs are talking about things, try to bring up that discussion around family leaders and family engagement. A lot of our work is dictated by HRSA because it is a government funded project. So they certainly have objectives and goals and stuff like that for us to do. But then I always say within projects like that, everybody has their own flavor and their own interpretation slightly to some of that work. So some of the big stuff that we're working on is we're working on a website, and I'm so disappointed because we're so close to launching the website, and I know Christy will share it with you once it launches, but we're just not quite there yet. We're so close. We're in our final stages. We have a genetics professional looking at it, as well as a medical copywriter, just to make sure that as we've brought in some of that language around genetics into what we call as plain language around here, that we haven't lost some of those nuances, or that some of that wasn't interpreted not quite right. Like, we want to make sure we get it, even if it is in plain language. So so we'll have a website, and that'll be up and about soon. And like I said, I know Christy will share that with you guys, but and on our website, we've kind of divided it up to different sections, but one of the main sections is just talking about genetics, genetic information, trying to bring some of that high school science to as a place and a resource for individuals, as well as we have a section that Christy was really helpful in working with us on around that family's journey within that genetic diagnosis. So we kind of identified some different stages, and it's not 100% built out, but it's sort of that we pick some key spots where families might enter that genetic journey, so to speak. And we tried to highlight that and then provide more information. So for example, if you entered in through screening, whether that was prenatal or newborn screening, or even something such as developmental screening, sort of like put you in there. Otherwise, if maybe you entered through family history. So again, we're trying to, build some of that out. And then, so as Christy said, we're on the same funding cycle. So our year end is May 31st as well for the first year. But next year, we'll really be focusing on, and I hope that all of you will take advantage of some of this, as really some leadership trainings. So one of our big focuses of the center will be this idea of family leadership training. So I have done some curriculum development around that when I was with Hands and Voices. And so now I'm looking at it here within this genetics field, and sort of there's lots of different family leadership type trainings out there. Family Voices has some great ones. And like I said, Hands and Voices does as well. So we really started to look at that and think about, well, what's kind of different in our world, or what kind of things do people need to know? And so we're in the process of really starting to map that out, but that'll look, like I said, that'll probably be more of a year two. This summer, we'll probably start to have webinars, and, the vision is, again, webinars, maybe some online learning modules. So something that you could just go through on your own time, as well as some interactive type things. So for example, we might do a flipped classroom, where that would be, we would just schedule a Zoom meeting and we could have conversations around some of that. I am going to just stop just for a second, just to let you guys digest some of that. See if there's any questions as I'm talking, or if I lost you, I don't know, like 10 minutes ago, or 5, or however long I've been talking.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, so I teach at a university, and I teach public health communications.
Uh-huh.
And I have my students take different courses and watch webinars and something like that from all types of organizations. Would this be something that my students, we're really involved, with rare genetic disorders. It's how I plan my entire class around.
Yeah.
And would this be something that they may be interested in sitting in on the leadership skills or something like that?
They may. I think we'll have a, so we're at the point, again, we're developing this curriculum from essentially the ground up. So we started by identifying different components of things that we wanted to offer trainings on. So for example, we kind of looked at this family leadership or this family engagement, however you, and we'll get a better definition as we go along, because again, I feel like depending upon whom you talk to, you have different definitions or they have different visions about what that looks like. So really, when we started talking about family leadership, we kind of said it goes everywhere from that individual sort of idea all the way through, some family leadership even within your own family. So how, and if that's as far as a family wants to get, that's perfectly fine. And then you kind of go up to that community level. So maybe doing some organizing a play group, or going to talk at your library or something like that, to that system level. Whereas again, more where we're in the RGNs or statewide advisory committees and stuff like that. So we split it up within those four, and then we started to look at components of each of those four. So there might be some in there for your students. So for example, when we talked about individual, we kind of identified and we sort of said we want to do a training around everybody's a leader. So it's sort of that idea of you don't have to be there and be presenting on big stages to everybody. You don't even have to sit on that advisory committee. I say family leadership is, if you're able to get yourself and your child to that next appointment and get that information that you need to, that's family leadership, like right there. And so it is that spectrum. So that we've had a lot of talking, a lot of starting to put stuff down. So I hope that there's some things that potentially your students, but it's not 100% fleshed out. But it's my next big thing as I move through May and try to get some of our end of the year kind of things wrapped up. We're sort of in that crazy thing.
Okay, thank you.
And Molly, we have another question from Jamie. Jamie, do you want to go?
Sure. You actually, Molly, answered part of my question, because I was kind of wondering what kind of training that you are going to be providing. I didn't know if it was like for professionals or for like how it fit in there, but it makes sense now. But the other question is more along the side of the hands and voices. So I've always wanted to do like a second language and sign language training, because I'm a PT neuromovement practitioner. I've had people come to me and they expect me to have sign language, and I don't. And I actually had the opportunity when I was younger to go to Gallaudet, but it didn't work out. So what is a good, concise training that would be good for me to do, or to recommend other professionals to do, so we can communicate and, be able to have that relationship with people that are deaf and hard of hearing? Because it's like learning another language, and it takes time.
It absolutely does. Yes. No, it absolutely is its own language with its own vernacular and, all of that. So yes, it definitely is learning another language. And some of it is, it's hard when there is, you don't have anyone to practice with and stuff like that, so again, it's part of that. I would say it really depends on what your main, I don't want to say goal is, but it's sort of like, do you want to be fluent? Do you want to be able to go mix in deaf culture? I think there's lots of opportunities to learn sign language, but again, it kind of goes back to, I think some of it's your learning style. So some of it, there are online things to go to. I would investigate NCHAM, which is So www, and their website is infanthearing.org. They are the technical assistance center to all of the national EDI programs. So in all of the national early hearing detection and intervention programs. I would look on their website first to see what they have. I know they have like sign language classes for families that, you know, if their child are under 3. I was really in that birth to 3 world as far as, you know, and family support and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. I know there's some like other, if I think of them, I'll send them to Christy and she can forward you them. Okay. So let me think
Okay.
on that one. Like off the top of my head, that's kind of where I would start, but I know there's some out there. And I'll send them your way.
Yeah, that would be great, because even interacting with like my own kids or kids that have difficulty with their speech, it's great to incorporate sign language, because the motoric part of that really helps to create that prosody and, you know, get them to use all of their words and to pace. And just having like flashcards with a picture, it doesn't work. I need to see it. I need to see that whole motoric.
Yeah,
So thanks.
I get it. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you. And I've got another hand up from Winton. Go ahead, Winton.
Hi, thank you. This is for Jamie. Jamie, if you put your, I guess I have your email because Christy sent it out to all of us. But I have a program that my daughter goes to the Albuquerque Sign Language Charter School. So they're bilingual English and sign language, and professors there, like families can take free classes in the evenings with them. And one of the professors from UNM who taught us over there gave us a wonderful website. And I can't recall what it is, but I can find it for you. It has free lessons. And what I really like is they send you free in your inbox every day a sign of the day. And then on the 7th day, they do a review of the signs you've learned. But they also have lessons, and all of that is free. You don't have to buy anything, and it's really good. So if that interests anyone, shoot me an email and I will get that information out to you. In my email, I believe Christy shows who we are on there, but it's woodwinton, my name, @gmail.com. So anyone interested, just let me know and I'll send that info out to you.
Or you can use the chat box as well. Yeah,
Okay.
the chat feature. Great. All right. Molly, do you have any other things you wanted to say? I was going to ask you if you would just talk just slightly about the family engagement interviews, because at the end of our talk, I have a slide for that. You'll probably already be off, Molly, but talking about the date and time, we have those set up in case anybody else wants to join us for that group discussion.
So as one of our overarching kind of objectives and our goals of the center is this idea around family engagement within the genetics healthcare system. So in order to do that, we feel that there needs to be a measure or a data point or something like that around that. So what has been happening, and there's been some great work, like I said, Family Voices has done some work around family engagement within systems. They came out with their FESAT, but then we really wanted to look at it and see within the genetic system what that looks like, right? Or how does that translate? So we are contracting with Peter Antal, who is a really great data evaluator person. So I always say, like, I know family leadership and family engagement, and he really knows data and evaluation. So we're trying to take our knowledge and talk about it. A couple of years ago, there was a lot of time spent before me, the Family Center, talking about family engagement. But we're really starting to have some interviews. So there was a lot of interviews done with RGNs at that time and a lot of discussion. There was some done with family leaders at the time, but I don't know that they understood some of the nuances of family leadership and what that looks like. So, so we're really digging in and trying to interview as many of the family leaders that are within the different RGNs, so we can look towards what would these family engagement measures look like? What would be different within the genetic healthcare system versus just within your general children and youth with special healthcare needs? The genetic system is different. It does have the RGNs. It does have some different support. So we're kind of looking at it from that. And Peter is really great. He'll ask just a couple of questions really essentially, and he kind of gets individuals feedback. So, what works great, or where do you see leadership within the RGN or within the genetic system, not just even limited to the RGN, but we know that there's other parts of this system that our lives touch.
So just a little plug for that. Stay tuned,
Yes.
and I'll have some information on that if anybody's interested in participating in those interviews. I know we have a couple people already signed up, so I'll at the end of my presentation, I have all the details of when they can contact me. Thank you, Molly. Anybody else have any questions for Molly?
Before I jump off,
and I know she has to get going here.
I know.
So for her next engagement.
Right? Yeah,
busy person today.
It's a busy day for me, but like I said, I'm glad you guys had me on. I'm hoping, as my tenure here with the Family Center continues, you'll see my name a little bit more. You'll start to see some training, some stuff that I think it will hopefully help make things better. And if you ever have any ideas or anything like that, I love to hear them. I'm always open to them. So feel free to reach out to Christy or to myself directly. So thank you guys.
Thanks, Molly, for being on. Christy. We appreciate your time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All righty. So that brings us to the part we usually start with, which is our introductions and a question. So I'm going to switch gears to that. We have, it looks like about 16 folks on the line with us. So I thought today we could do tell us your name, group you represent, and state you live in. We always start off with those because that kind of gives us some bearings of where everybody's located in our region. And then this question today jumped off the icebreaker brainstorm page at me. If you could immediately gain one skill, what would it be? So let everybody ponder on that for a moment. I'll go ahead and answer for myself while everybody else is thinking. So as I mentioned, I'm Christy Weiss. I'm the projects manager for Mountain States Regional Genetics Network. I represent Mountain States, but I also am a family representative that has been on a genetic journey with our own family. I represent the Mountain States, every single one of them, but I actually live and reside in Pennsylvania. And my skill, if I could immediately gain one skill, what would it be? Would be conflict resolution. I do not like conflict. So I would love to be able to just do that seamlessly if I could snap my fingers and have that skill. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and we'll do a little bit of a round robin here. If you guys don't mind, I'll just call on you based on how I wrote you down as everybody joined the call. And I think Rosie was one of the first ones to the call. So Rosie, would you like to go? Introduce yourself. You didn't know you're getting called on, did you?
Okay, my name is Rosie Peterson. I'm the Director of Institutional Diversity Initiatives at UT Dallas. I worked in the, I guess you would say, the field working with individuals with sickle cell disease for over 20 years. I moved to Texas in 2004, actually to help start a sickle cell center at UT Dallas. But the researcher that I moved here to be with decided to move somewhere else. So the people, well, I won't say they were not interested in sickle cell disease, but it didn't last. So I moved to diversity in 2007. And interestingly enough, the thing I would love to learn is sign language. Before I left Mobile, I'm from Mobile, Alabama. Before I left Mobile, when I was working, I sat on the board for the preschool for the sensory impaired, and I always enjoyed that work. And since I've been here, I have had an encounter with several people that I needed to have an interpreter. And it was just so interesting sitting there communicating that way. And that's on my bucket list to learn to play the piano, learn sign language.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. All right, next I have Susan Owens. Susan, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Susan Owens, and I represent people basically that have very complicated genetic things that may involve gene interactions and that kind of thing, and people who don't get a diagnosis and are struggling to figure out what's wrong with them. And I have an internet group that has 38,500 people on it, and they are in 100 different countries. So I'm not very regionally engaged, but more internationally engaged.
So
And
where are you located? You're in
I'm in Texas.
Texas as well. Yeah. And how about your answer to your skill? If you could immediately gain one skill.
I really need technical video, putting all the information together skills. That would be what I would want.
Awesome. All right. Next I have Hanan. I think this is Hanan's first time joining us. Welcome. Do you want to introduce yourself, Hanan?
Hello, everyone. My name is Hanan Dawood. I am also in Texas. I actually live just a few miles away from UT Dallas. That's funny when you said that. I was like, she said UT Dallas. So I am a mom of 5, and I have my third child, Miriam, who is diagnosed with a genetic condition. She has a chromosome 18 deletion. And I'm here. This is my first time. Yes, it is. And I met Christy through another friend on my journey, and I am blessed to have met her.
Are you still there? Oh, there you are. You're back.
Lose me.
Go ahead. You're
I
back.
don't know what happened. For some reason, I've been speaking this whole time.
We lost you just for a second there. You said you had met me through another friend, I think, and then it went out.
Oh yes, so I met Christy through another friend on my journey with my daughter. So my daughter's 3 years old. She is like I said, she's the third of 5, and I don't know if you heard when I said her condition is called chromosome 18 deletion, and I am basically trying to just get as involved as much as I can, learn as much as I can, support in any way, be her advocate. You know, and that's why I'm involved here, or I'm joining here. And I want to also, I've grown up my whole life in the States, but I'm originally from Ethiopia. And within the community, I see that there is a diverse cases of genetic or special needs children. And what I want to do is, hopefully this is long-term goals, is to become an advocate for those people, especially because of the language barrier. So I want to gain as much leadership, training and understanding and knowledge of resources. I'm actually, thanks to Christy, I'm actually looking into a career that would lead me into it, because I was previously doing nursing, and that's something that I don't, thanks to COVID, learned that probably is not the best way to go about for me. But long story short, basically, I am here to be an advocate for my child first, and for those who can't speak for themselves. And I am glad to be here and join you guys too.
We're so glad you're here. Thank you. And how about if you could immediately gain one skill, what would it be?
Does telepathic understanding count?
That's a
One
good
thing
one.
that now that my child is growing and she is, as of right now, does not speak, one thing that I find frustrating is understanding her needs, or at least I find that she is frustrating that I don't understand her needs because she can't tell me. And so if I can just read her mind and know, okay, this is what she's, most of the time I do because of the mom instinct, but not always accurate. So, a lot of the times I know when she's hungry, the way she acts, I know when she's tired, I know when she needs a change, I know when she needs entertainment, I know when she needs just hugs and kisses. But sometimes there's certain things that she just goes like haywire for it. I'm like, okay, baby, I don't really know. And I wish I could read your mind and understand what it is that you want at this moment. So that's probably one skill that I would love to have. And I do really, really want to learn ASL. I do.
Awesome. Maybe it sounds like we need to have our own class for our next genetic ambassador call. Thank you so much, Hanan, for being here. Appreciate it. All right, next I have Daphne. Daphne, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Daphne Fulton. I have a grandson who has vascular Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. I worked in the public health and healthcare field for about 35 years before I went back to school to get a doctorate. So I teach public health. I work also with our new College of Medicine, and I teach health communications. So one skill, I started to say the ability to say no, but I've learned that in the last year. I think mind control. As a professor, I would really like to have some mind control sometimes.
That's a good one. And I just realized that everybody that just has already gone is all from Texas, because Daphne's from Texas as well. So Hanan, Daphne, Susan, and Rosie, all of you are from Texas. Great, thank you, Daphne. And how about Hannah? Hannah, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, so I'm Hannah Barnhart. I guess the group would be MSRGN here in Nevada, and I'm the new genetics navigator. And just like I said, I'm in Nevada, but I'm originally from Alaska. So we get a little bit of a state mix there, a little bit. If you could immediately gain one skill, I think for me, it would be if I could figure out cloning, so I could clone myself. While I'm having a meeting here, I can go do the dishes, do the laundry that I still need to get done.
That's a good one, especially for a genetics call. All right, thank you, Hannah. Excuse me, how about Jennifer Bartz? We got two Jennifers. Jennifer Bartz can go, then Jennifer Vana can go. Go ahead.
Yes, two Gen Bs.
Gen Bs, yeah.
So I'm Jen Bartz, and I am the navigator for New Mexico, but I sit on the New Mexico genetics network team. So I do both of those things. My son, James, had Down syndrome, but then he also, he declined very rapidly his last year of life. And on autopsy, we found some rare genetic disorders. And then also he had some diagnoses through Denver prior to his death. So I had to navigate New Mexico and Denver and all that. He was 4 when he died about 2 years ago. So I've just kind of trying to help families who've gone through things like me. And again, I live in New Mexico. Let's see. The one skill I'd like to gain, I already know sign language because he had hearing loss. But I'd like to have like a better business, I don't know, way of doing business. I'm not a business person, but I started my own nonprofit, and I would sure like to have had a business degree. And that's not what my degree is in.
For all that paperwork.
Yes, because my degree is in psychology, and it's not really helping me out too much starting a nonprofit, but.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thanks so much for Jen for introducing yourself. And then how about the other Gen B? Do you want to introduce yourself? Go ahead.
Yep, I'm Jen Banna. I live in Montana. I'm the genetic navigator for Montana and the team co-lead for our Mountain State Regional Genetics Network state team. And Hanan, I also have a young adult daughter who's 21 who has a chromosome 18 deletion. She has Pitt-Hopkins syndrome. And that's what got me very interested in genetics. When I was trying to think about one skill, you know, I have a tendency when I think of like the skills that would help the whole world or, you know, right, which is the most awesome one. But I think the one that I would probably most like to have for me would be to be better at cooking. I'm a very good baker and I'm a fairly accomplished baker, but when it comes to like cooking vegetables and meat and those kind of things that you're supposed to eat instead of baked goods, I'm not as good at that.
Oh goodness. I was going to say, when you said cooking, I'm like, don't you work for a catering company and you make all those beautiful treats? But I guess that's baking, not cooking, right? Nope. Did we lose you? Are you there?
Nope, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for being here, Jen. Okay, I have Gina next, and she messaged me. She doesn't have audio or visual today, so I am going to read hers. Gina Polomoney, parent of 5, 2 had a very rare terminal genetic condition, an adult daughter that has a medical complex undiagnosed condition. She's the founder and now retired director of the Utah Family Voices, and she's currently the family faculty of Utah Regional LEND program and the development director for Utah Legislative Coalition for People with Disabilities. And the skill that she immediately would like to gain is time management that would prioritize self-care and self-compassion. That's a good one. So thank you for being with us, Gina. Sorry you don't have audio or video today, but we're glad you're here. All right, and next I have on my list Heather Schichtel. Heather, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Heather Schichtel. I am the executive director of a nonprofit here in Denver called Miracles for Mito. We support families who have been impacted by mitochondrial disease, which has a lot of genetic mutations associated with it. Personally, we carry a POLG1 mutation, which impacted both of my children. They both passed away from mitochondrial disease, and it has impacted my brother as well as an adult onset genetic condition. So yeah, just here to support and see how we can help in the mitochondrial space, especially when it's associated with genetics. If I had a skill that I could immediately acquire, I just started a marketing technology company, or started at a marketing technology company, and I would love to know what our software engineers know. So I guess it's technical acumen that I would love to have.
Wow, software engineering, that sounds pretty complex. But maybe not more complex than genetics, right? And you've already figured, you've already figured that part out. So
I would love, it's funny what they do with data and how we can apply that to what we're doing in the rare space is another one. So maybe data scientist.
There you go. There you go. Bioinformatics, right?
Exactly.
All right. So next I have Winton on my list. Winton, are you still there? I know you emailed me that you had to run. Are you still able to talk?
Yeah, I have to run at 1:15.
Okay, good deal.
So I did a little note because I forget, because I just do too many things and my brain is not organized. So I'm from New Mexico. I'm first and foremost mom to 2 children. My oldest daughter has Down syndrome and autism and some other medical issues. She will be 15 in about a week.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. And professionally, I work at UNM for people on the developmental disabilities waiver or the medically fragile waiver when they've chosen self-direction. So I have a caseload of about 40 people who I help and support. And then I work with pediatric residents and 3rd-year med students, going over reviewing family-centered care with them. And I'm on the New Mexico Genetics Network team. And me too, I said, I club myself because I'll tell you. I'm always so interested in doing so many things, but I don't have enough time in the day. But what I'd love to do is I would love to learn better carpentry skills, because to me, fixing my home and doing carpentry is very relaxing, but I don't really have the skills to do a good job. So I would love to.
That's an interesting one. I like it. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, next I have up Jamie. Jamie, you want to introduce yourself? Oh, are you on?
Sorry, I'm multitasking.
Oh, okay. Oh, do you want us to skip you and come back?
Nope, I got it. So I have been on the Colorado State team for MSRGN for about 3 years now. And I'm also now the genetics navigator for Colorado. I'm a PT and neuromovement practitioner and have 2 kiddos with a genetic condition called TELO2 or Hoover-Fong syndrome. And they're 12 and 14. And in addition to being omnipotent and cloning myself, so all knowing and cloning myself, I'd like to be able to learn second and third language, so ASL, and be fluent in Spanish, so that I could be more efficient not efficient, but effective and efficient, I guess, at being, communicating with people and helping people.
That's quite ambitious. all that to fit in your spare time, right?
Exactly.
Thanks for sharing, Jamie. Glad you're here. All right, next I have Debbie Bridge. Debbie, are you still on? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm here, but I'm feeling a bit under the weather.
Oh, no. Do you want us to skip you?
Oh, no.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm here to participate. My name is Debbie Bridge. I'm the mother of a soon-to-be 30-year-old autistic man. And I recently took on a task of creating a YouTube channel to show our journey and to also to help parents with younger kids to just keep that momentum. I am from Texas, so I'm part of this Texas group. Also, let's see, what could I learn? I think that I have been beating myself up lately because I feel as though my plate is overrun all the time, and I keep adding things to it, but I don't know how to relax. So I need to learn how to truly let go and relax.
That is a good skill to have, but a hard one to master, I think.
Yes.
Good. Thanks for being here, Debbie. I would love to take a peek at your YouTube channel if you want to share it. I don't know if that's open for the public or not, but pop it in the chat if you want to share with everybody. But I would love to take that. I didn't know you'd taken on that project. Very cool. All right. Next, I have Brittany. Brittany, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi. Can you see me?
Yep, we can see you.
Sorry, there's a lot of background music. I'm multitasking with my little kids, but my name is Brittany, and I am on the Colorado State team, and I also serve on the board for the Homelessness Senior Network of America. I have 2 little boys, one you can hear in the background, who have a rare condition called homelessness cystinuria cobalamin G. And our first son passed away when he was just an infant.
He found you.
And this is Grayson. He is 2 and full of energy. I know, we're almost done. And the skill I should gain would be to learn German. I've always wanted to go to Germany, and it's kind of a bucket list for me. So if I could instantly learn it, that'd be great, because it's a really hard language, and I just don't have time to really sit down and learn it right now. So it'd be great if I could just instantly have it. So.
Oh, I had to take German in college for my chemistry degree. It was one of the ones that was required. So thanks for sharing, Brittany. Thanks for being here. All right, next I have Mary Jo Palladino. Mary Jo, you want to introduce yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you now.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Walking. Hi, everybody. Mary Jo Palladino. I'm in Colorado, actually in Castle Rock, and I'm with the National Family Voices. I'm mom to 6 children who are all young adults now. And I would like to improve my technology skills. All the different platforms and the technology that we're using now, and learning new ones. It seems to be the way of the future.
It's kind of overwhelming, isn't it? There's like another one every day.
Exactly.
Oh, we're glad you're here, Mary Jo. Thanks for being here. All right, and I think did I get all our ambassadors? I want to have Cody introduce himself from our team, but did I get all of our genetic ambassadors? Is there anyone that I missed? If I did, please speak up now. If not, I'll ask Cody if he can introduce himself.
Hey everyone. So I'm Cody Price. I gotta check my note card to make sure I get all this right. But I'm a native Texan. I applied to UT Dallas, but I ended up going to undergrad at Mississippi State University, and I just graduated from Texas A&M. So I'm living in College Station for the time being, and I'm the project coordinator with MSRGN and also sort of with the Texas Health Institute. And the skill I would like to learn sort of too. I by default read like a turtle. So I would like to read, I'd like to get better at speed reading, and then computer programming, similar to what Heather and I think Mary Jo said.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody. And Cody is very much instrumental with our state teams. So those of you on our state teams know him, and we'll be filling some really big shoes for Joyce Hooker as she retires at the end of May. So more about that in a moment, but I think I got everybody. So I just want to ask one more time, is there anyone that I missed that would like to introduce themselves that's on the call that I did not call on? Did we get everybody? All right, well, I am gonna move on. I scheduled this call for an extra half hour since it's our quarterly call. I feel like we can never squish it all in. So we do have 10 minutes till the top of the hour and then another half hour. So I'm going to go through quickly some of these slides because I want to get to our discussion about the red flags, which is will take a little bit of time, I think. This is just an overview slide. I know we have a lot of repeat genetic ambassadors that have been on other calls, but maybe for Hanan and anybody else that's new to the call for the first time, this is our region. Those are our 8 states there. And we represent over 1 million square miles. Most of our states only have one center where you can see a geneticist. This is a little bit of a timeline of our grant cycles. You've heard a lot of reference today. I know Molly referenced it a number of times, the year 2 of the next grant cycle. And so I just want to give everybody kind of a timeline perspective that we are in a 4-year grant cycle right now that started last June of 2020 and is going till May 31st of 2024. So when you hear people say year 2, they're referring to the 2021 grant cycle that starts on June 1st and will go to May 31st, 2022. We are now within Mountain States calling that year 5 because we are a continuation of that 3-year grant cycle before. So we're actually in year 4 right now, finishing that up in just a few weeks. And then we will start year 5 and then go through to year 7. So it's a little bit of a switch. It's thrown us all for a loop internally. So if you get confused, just ask which year are we talking about, because sometimes we have to stop and ask ourselves which year are we talking about. So that's just a little bit of our timelines. The regional genetics networks have been around in some way, shape, or form since 1985, and that's when Joyce Hooker started with us, who's retiring now. She's been here since the start. So just a reminder on our grant priorities for this grant cycle. There were 3 things that HRSA asked us to do, 3 big categories that HRSA asked us to do with the funding. One was the regional infrastructure. That's what we are in right now with our state team model, our genetic ambassadors as part of that infrastructure, our genetic navigators and some of our other programs as part of that infrastructure, our education to primary care and pediatricians, in addition to individuals and families. I'll talk about that in just a moment with our Time for Genetics program. And then telegenetics is an ongoing focus of our region, and our plans have been slightly impacted by COVID, but we are moving in the right direction with that as the world has gone to telehealth overnight. A couple of our folks on the call have already introduced themselves as the new genetic navigators for Mountain States, but there is all 8 of their photos and names and states. We announced our genetic navigators in March, and they began training in April, and we'll complete that in the next couple of weeks here in May. And then they will begin navigating in June 2021 as the genetic navigators for our 8 states. So if you want more details on that, you can go to our website under the news tab. We have an announcement there with everybody's names. I just want to give a couple of project updates. This one we're going to deep dive into because this is the genetic ambassador led program and initiated program. This was the red flag survey, which closed on March 20th. And we had 113 English responses and 20 Spanish responses. And I just want to shout from the rooftops a huge thank you to all of you for helping with the survey, because we would not have gotten those numbers had you not shared it, had you not put it in your groups on social media, emailed it out to folks that you thought would take it. And then I want to say a special thanks to Hannah Barnhart, who's on the call. She helped a lot with the development of the initial questions. Lourdes is not on the call, but she is, I don't see her on right now, but she is our genetic navigator for Texas. She helped with translating it into Spanish and did a lot of sharing it in her community. And then Brittany, who is on the call, she is helping us now with the data analysis and helping convert that into an infographic with our intern, Michaela. So coming in June, it is our goal to convert what we got in the survey, at least the red flags tab. There were many questions, so we have a lot of data to sift through, but at least the red flags tab into an infographic that we can then convert to Spanish later in the summer. But I'll tell you why we need it so quickly here in June in a second. But I wanted to show you what some of the top categories came up being. So with the data analysis, we put all of the red flags into one column, literally in Excel. And I apologize, I was going to show that to you, but unfortunately the computer I am using today is not pulling up the file for me very well. So I will defer to this slide here to say these are the big bucket categories that came back on the survey. And so what I'd like to do today is have a conversation with all of us on the correct wording that you all think should go, or multiple wordings that should go on the infographic. So just in red here, the big bucket categories are around developmental delays, failure to thrive, low muscle tone, feeding issues, sleep issues, and physical features. And I'll go into a little bit more detail about those in a second, but I wanted to show you some of the other categories that did come up. The ones I just showed you are the top 6. But some other buckets that the groupings of red flags fell into were skin irregularities, immune issues, bruising, GI issues. And then this last one, second to last one, behavior, autism spectrum disorder, ophthalmological or eye issues, seizures, and then loss of milestones, regression. And then we kind of have an other bucket or category because there's things that are kind of one-offs. We only had 1 or 2 people maybe mention it as a red flag. So that's where the data is kind of falling from the red flag survey, but I'm going to show these 6 again. I want to have a conversation today with all of you, and we can use the chat feature as well as unmuting your mic, because with these being the top 6, there may be more featured on the infographic, but with these top 6 being the ones that are probably far and above all the other ones with the number of people that mentioned this, I want to make sure we get our wording correct. For instance, low muscle tone, I'll take that as an example. Many people wrote hypotonia. Maybe many people wrote floppy baby. Many people wrote low muscle tone. So there's a lot of things that conglomerate or constellate around low muscle tone, but we want to make sure and get it right on an infographic so a family will recognize that as a red flag. So with that, let's start off. Let's just start off with the low muscle tone one. If anyone's had experience with that, keeping in mind that this infographic is for families, what do you think the right way to put that on an infographic is as naming that red flag? Does anybody have any thoughts? Feel free to use the chat too if you prefer. So do we call it?
Christy?
Yeah, go ahead.
Unfortunately, I put the clapping hand instead of the raising hand.
Oh, whoops. Okay, go ahead.
So for example, Lilia does have low muscle tone, and me, now that she's 15, we say hypotonia. But I think low muscle tone is the first thing that that we as a family understood.
Okay.
So low muscle.
So you feel like that's family friendly enough in those terms, low muscle tone?
I do.
Okay. Do you think having something listed there as well, again, these don't have to be the only way we list it. We can list a couple of different ways to mean the same thing. Does the term floppy baby or floppy child resonate with anybody? Is that offensive to anyone? It came back a number of times on the survey, so that's why I'm asking.
To me, it's offensive, floppy baby.
Okay.
Maybe you can say, floppy muscle tone if you prefer. The floppy baby is defining the baby as floppy, which is not, but I think that some families, that's what they hear. A pediatrician with a young baby may say, oh, this is a floppy baby. So that's what the families learn, is how, and maybe as the child gets older, they learn more person-centered language. But
Yeah.
it is floppy baby is offensive to me.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's why I asked. I like how you said it, floppy muscle tone as well. Or so we've got some things in the chat here. I see a low muscle tone. Jen, great question. Did anyone mention high tone? There were like a couple of mentions of high tone, which made me think maybe three or four mentions of it. So made me think of maybe talking about this as not just low muscle tone, but low and high in this category might be appropriate, because you're right. High muscle tone can also be a red flag. Anyone else? And low and high. Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi. I was gonna say, just to kind of mention that if you want to maybe put the correct terming in parentheses, and then, or just want to put the correct terming up front and then put the layman's terms in parentheses so people can understand. For example, you can say hypotonia and hypertonia, and then just put in parentheses high or low muscle tone issues or something like that, so that people can understand what you're referring to. And then that way you can address both issues at the same time, rather having one for hyper and then one for hypotonia.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, because I'll share with you in the next slide after we finish this discussion how we want to use this infographic. So we also want to send it to pediatricians and primary care providers. So I think having both on there might be a good way, not only for the families to connect the dots, right, between the low muscle tone and hypotonia, oh, those mean the same thing, but also for the pediatricians' recognition of their medical terminology, perhaps. And I have in the chat here, I think that, hang on just a second, Susan. I was just going to read the couple in the chat. I think the first milestone regarding muscle tone is head control. This was our first clue. When we create things for people with poor health literacy, we explain what it is in parentheses. Maybe put examples of what parents should see as milestones. Okay, go ahead, Susan.
Well, just similarly, I think even muscle tone is a pretty advanced term for a lot of parents, but saying that your child couldn't crawl or couldn't stand, I mean, that's pretty basic.
So yeah, so we have some motor missed milestones that kind of were congregating around the developmental delays. So what we were trying to do, because it was a free form category, right? People could type in anything, and there were 5 boxes. If you guys remember the survey, there were 5 places to type in anything. So trying to literally, this low muscle tone category was because people typed in low muscle tone, hypotonia, or floppy baby. That one became its own huge category. And then people saying couldn't walk, couldn't crawl, or not crawling, not walking were in like a separate category, kind of grouped with developmental delays, if that makes sense, like not meeting milestones. But I hear what you're saying. I hear what you're saying, Susan, and I hear what Heather is saying too about the head control as an example of low muscle tone. So
well, it's just that developmental delay is so much broader in that it can matter a maturity, and whether you're acting like a child that's months younger than you are, and that kind of thing.
Control muscle tone.
I kind of agree with Susan in the sense that developmental delays is just so large. Anything can come under that in a way. But I also think that if you're having as a heading, kind of like can't walk, by, whatever age, or that's being too
over. Yeah,
it's not specific enough, and I think it is, as an advocate, I think it's extremely important that parents learn the terminology. I think it's really important. So maybe you could do something like the terminology, and then under that you have a few bullet points of examples, and etc. So families can say, oh, hyper/hypotonia, low muscle tone, floppy muscles, blonde head, head, that kind of a thing, so that there's kind of a subtitle, quote unquote, instead of just one heading.
Yep, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I gotcha.
I have a question about the data. So I remember just looking at the survey, but did you run any type of regression analysis with the between these to see if there were any relationships? Because I think developmental delays, people are going to take that more as like mental delays and things like that. Whereas inability to walk on time, I would think they were thinking poor muscle tone. I'm just wondering, did y'all do any regression analysis?
We did not. We are just in the mode of sorting some of the data out for the infographic right now. So trying to get it into some categories, trying to see which of the mentions of the red flags were repeated. So we're just in that initial.
I was just thinking that would help you with your graphic. We can talk. Just
okay.
We'll talk later.
Sounds good. All right. So these 6 categories here floated to the top again because of repetition of this, people saying the same thing as a red flag over and over and over again. So anyway, so let's switch to a different category if that's okay. Since we talked about the low muscle tone, I've got a lot of notes here from that discussion. One question that came up for us was literally failure to thrive and feeding issues were repeated in 2 different ways, meaning that people were writing feeding issues, failure to latch, not eating, but then those 2 can be one and the same in the medical world. However, I thought it was really interesting that parents saw them as right. They formed their own categories, if you will, because they were repeated so many times. So I would love your all's thoughts on how should we keep them differentiated? Should we lump them together? To me,
oh, sorry, my son came in.
Oh,
Well, I needed to say something. So I think they should be kept separate.
Okay.
But because people may not I think people may shy away from one or the other if their child doesn't have all the attributes of one or the other.
I see.
Because, you know, when a child's born and they're having issues with feeding, they're not latching, they're having trouble with the suck, swallow, breathe coordination, they're not necessarily classified as failure to thrive yet.
You're right. You're right. Yeah. So another time where the format that Winton was talking about, feeding issues, and then having some of those bullet points possibly under it, feeding, latching, suck, swallow, some of those difficulties maybe listed under it. Jamie, is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
So somebody else was going to say something. Go ahead.
That it's Winton. I agree with Jamie. When you first pulled this up, I kind of thought about that. At the same time, I thought no, because they can be different, and there can be failure to thrive that has nothing to do with your feeding issues. So, right. You know, often it is feeding issues, but I agree. I really do think it does need to be separate.
Yeah, and the fact that they kind of came out so distinctly, like I said, that families weren't, there was not a sway to one way or the other. There were really two different, both terms were used, is what I'm saying, and often. So, okay, so that, does anybody else have any thoughts on that? Aspiration, thank you.
Well, this is Jen. I think that failure to thrive too, like if you don't know the medical, what that is in a medical term, you might just be looking at a baby that just seems like they're not thriving, or things just aren't going well, or it's just off. And so some parents might put them into that category. Like if they're delayed in development, they might think, oh, they're not really thriving, or they're not growing the way my other kids did, or whatever. So I kind of like that can sort of be a catch-all for some other things that non-medical people, like families, might notice about their child. They're not growing as fast as their cousin that's the same age. They're not gaining weight. Like they might notice something different.
What would be another example? So I have like not gaining weight, not growing well. What are you thinking? Are you thinking?
I'm even thinking sleeping a lot, not being as social. I mean, I'm thinking that families might read that like they're not thriving socially. They're not, you know, so they might group a whole bunch of situations into that situation that medical people wouldn't, but it would probably still be a red flag, right? It would probably still be like, this isn't quite right. They're just not growing and changing the same way my other kids did, you know?
Yeah. You're saying there's the medical terminology of the definition of what failure to thrive means to a medical professional. And then there's the parent category of like, my child's not thriving. And that can mean 100 different things to 100 different families of what thrive looks like.
Yeah. And I think it works in both situations, because we would agree it's a red flag in either situation.
Yeah. Gotcha. And I've got a comment from Gina. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm wondering, Christy, you know, they say there are 3 different markers that really say that there's something going on genetically. And I'm almost wondering if in doing this infographic, I mean, these aren't separate, right? What people have pointed out, like low muscle tone contributes to feeding issues, which contribute to failure to thrive. You know, I'm wondering if you can kind of relate all of them, because, and I don't know how you would do that, but they're all connected.
Are you saying there's 3? Go back to the 3. Which one are you talking about? Those 3 feeding issues, low muscle tone and failure to thrive, or are you talking about something else?
No, so I think pediatricians usually say when there are 3 markers, let's say failure to thrive, you know, low muscle tone, they're usually, I'm sorry, I'm saying that wrong. If there are 3 systems that are involved, then it usually points to something genetic. So let's say if there's a neuro issue, a gastro issue, and an overall gross muscle skill issue, or big muscle skill issue, that points to a genetic, that's when you should seek genetic counseling. And like how I look at these are all great, but they're not separate. They create a holistic genetic issue, for lack of a better word. And I'm wondering how you could connect all of that.
Right. So I think, go ahead.
In picturing it, you could use a big circle and just have slices, you know, so that it looks like a whole.
So I'm almost thinking maybe you take like and I don't know, this is just, maybe you take like a baby, right? A picture of a baby, and you have like these, like you said, Susan, a circle, and these markers and how kind of pullouts of how they might be connected. What does low, because I didn't know that low muscle tone is really one of the first markers in feeding issues. If a baby doesn't have the strength to latch and to suck, they're going to have feeding issues, and that's going to contribute to failure to thrive. And so I don't know. I don't know. That's just kind of my thought. These aren't separate. They're all connected.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying. I think maybe let's step back one step and think about the purpose of the infographic and the way that at least I'm envisioning it being used is to gain access to genetic services, right? To get somebody's radar to go up for this child to get them to genetics. So to me, I don't know if we have to on the first I don't know what you call it, the first glance, do we need to connect all the dots, or are we really just trying to say if your child has one or any of these are reasons to talk to your pediatrician about a referral to genetics? So what's your guys' thoughts on that? Go ahead. Yep.
Christy, so what it seems to me is they all are interconnected, of course, because this is a human being, a human body. So they all are interconnected, but you will forcibly have, you obviously have redundancy, which is important. So let's say because if I look at this, Lilia can have all of them, at one point in her life, right? So, and a lot of them all at the same time. So maybe I pick just one, and under failure to thrive, I may also then when I click in that one, I'll have another tab that says developmental delays or feeding issues, so that it's redundant. You can either click on the main page, feeding issues, and get directly to those subcategories, or in failure to thrive, when I click on that, it brings me to a page which includes feeding issues or other, other sleep issues, so that there is that redundancy. And when you click on it, it brings to that web page that has been created specifically for those things. Do you see what I'm saying?
I hear what you're saying, but let me go back one step, because we're designing this as a one-pager print PDF right now, and haven't developed out the whole click and website and all of that stuff. But I hear what you're saying. You could take people down different paths. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah. So if you're going to do it through PDF, you have your failure to thrive PDF, and then you can have under that subcategories, feeding issues, see our feeding issue sheet, or, that kind of a thing. It would be the same thing in hard copy as it would be. It's much quicker if it's on a website, but
yeah.
Same thing in a hard copy, but that you have to decide, obviously, what are the main topics? You're narrowing that down, but then there will be redundancy. It's, you can't get away from redundancy, where you would then lead, because parents are going to read things in different ways. One parent looks at it under a different category. So you have to accept, I feel that me as a parent, I would, we would accept the fact that there will be redundancies, but we can always lead them to another PDF with more specifics. Does that kind of?
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
I apologize.
I see Rose. Yeah, see you, Winton. I know you got to go. Rosie's hands up. Rosie, do you want to go?
I don't want to go. I have a comment.
That's what I meant. Do you want to go next to speak?
Okay. I haven't attended enough meetings to really say that I really know what you all are referring to, but it sounds like to me what you all are trying to do is similar to our diversity dimension wheel. There are dimensions of diversity, and it's color coded. And I was thinking as I was listening that maybe something like that could.
Could you share it with us?
Yeah, I can. I can't share it now.
Okay.
Because I'm on my cell phone.
Okay,
but,
I'm writing your name down, diversity dimension wheel, and I'll email you.
Yeah, dimensions of diversity. There's 8 dimensions of diversity.
Okay.
So it's described in a wheel, and it's color coded. I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you. And then Jamie's got her hand up as well. Go ahead, Jamie. Oh, are you there? Did we lose you, Jamie? think you're on mute. All righty. Did anybody else have any comments before we, I'm just seeing we have about 15 minutes left. I have a couple more slides I want to share with y'all.
Okay, I'm here.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, it
That's
kicked
okay.
me out and then it wasn't. So yes, I think what Rosie was saying sounds interesting because I agree, it is many times everything is connected, but sometimes it's not. I mean, sometimes it isn't. A child doesn't have to have all of those things, or if they have one thing, it doesn't have to be, because like Heather was saying, sometimes, a lot of times, feeding issues are associated with low muscle tone, but that's not always the case. So I don't think it makes sense to, connect everything for the sake that many times that they're connected, but that, when a parent looks at it, I'd be afraid of them if it was all connected, for them to say, oh, well, my child has to have all of these things, kind of like with the diagnosis of certain things sometimes, and you probably know what I'm talking about. If there's a list, a lot of times doctors will say, oh, well, you have to have all of these attributes to qualify for this diagnosis, and that's not true. So I'd keep them separate so that they can say, oh, my child because the parent may not recognize all of the things that are going on with their child, maybe just a couple, because they don't know to look further. Because I know my husband certainly wouldn't have recognized all the things that I saw going on with my kids. So I'd keep them separately so that a parent can recognize them as individual things.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at Rosie's diagram wheel picture of the baby that encircle that Heather and Susan mentioned. So, if you guys have other ideas on this, I'm going to move on right now just because I have a couple other really important things I want to tell you all before our time is up. But feel free to email me and I can forward those to Brittany and Michaela, and we'll be meeting again, I think, in a week or so. To talk through more of these, and then hopefully we'll have a draft for you all by email for review. And the reason there's a little bit of I'm going to skip this one and go right to this one. There's a little bit of a time crunch on this is because we have launched our Time for Genetics initiative. And we have decided for this first topic, the Time for Genetics initiative, just to remind everybody, is our primary care and pediatric genetics education initiative to clinics in our state. This first round, we were going for 1 clinic per state. We were able to recruit 7 clinics in our region for this first round. And we have a topic area that lasts for 4 months. So we decided to pick that as red flags for genetics because it made sense to be a nice introductory topic to this education series. We just kicked it off in April. A newsletter went out with resources for primary care physicians on red flags. In May, we're going to have a webinar. That information is on our website under the news tab. If you're interested in sharing that with a pediatric practice or your own pediatrician, primary care, or attending it yourself, that will also be on Red Flags for Genetics. In June, we're doing a mailer, and I would really love for us to be able to wrap this up so maybe towards the end of June that we could mail this infographic to these clinics that are participating in this program so that they would have it available in their office for families on Red Flags for Genetics. And then in July, our fourth month of the topic, I'd like to share family-centered perspectives with the clinics. And so this is a little call for a recruitment. If anyone has had a personal experience with connecting red flags in your own family's journey with genetic diagnosis and would like to participate in some way in that family-centered perspective, shoot me an email and let me know, and I will get back to you with some more details. But that's a little bit where the urgency is coming from to work on this infographic piece first, so that we can get something, get at least the red flag highlights, if you will, of the infographic to the primary care providers in June. So if you're interested in those other pieces, please let me know and we can go from there. And I'm going to back up one slide because I know everybody wants to, many of you on here participated in our genetics pop-up. So this is just a quick update of our pop-up season from 2021. We had 8 virtual pop-ups. A big, huge thank you to Maria, Jesus, Jamie, Jennifer, Becky, Heidi, Emma, Hannah, and Lourdes and Gabriel, who are all our host and hostesses. It was really exciting. We had one of our pop-ups translated into ASL, American Sign Language, or interpreted into American Sign Language. And then we also had 2 pop-ups in Spanish with translation. And so, or sorry, interpretation. So it was a really neat pop-up season. And I just want to thank everybody for your participation and for sharing the information. I'm going to skip down here as we have our last 10 minutes of the call. There's some things coming up that I want to let you guys know about. I had mentioned at the top of the hour when Molly was talking about these interviews about family engagement happening at the national level. They have reached out to us and asked if we have anyone who would like to participate in those. We have a couple people who have volunteered. So we have it set up for those interviews to take place in a group setting on May 10th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 to 3 Central, noon to 2 Mountain, and 11 to 1 Pacific time. So if you are interested in participating in those interviews and have that specific time spot available, please contact me and I'll be happy to connect you with details. We also have picked the date for the Genetics Summit, and we have made the decision to have this summit be virtual. So the date will be November 9th through 10th, and they're going to be sort of half days. So like for those of you in the mountain time, 9:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. So a portion of the day. We will be sending out a call for speakers and topic ideas, and that will be coming out in the project director's newsletter coming out at the end of the week. So be looking for that. And then our next genetics ambassador meeting will be in July, since we're on our quarterly schedule. And then I have a couple other events and announcements I just want to let you guys know about. The Advisory Committee on Heritable Disorders in Newborn and Children is going to be held May 13th and 14th, and it is a webcast. So anyone that's interested in how newborn screening conditions get approved on the RUS, the Recommended Uniform Screening Panel, if anybody would like to make a public comment in regards to newborn screening, that can all be done at this meeting. And the registration is open until May 12th. That's free to attend. That's the government, the national level group that meets regarding heritable disorders in newborn and children with a focus on newborn screening. Also, there are some scholarships available for the NORD conference that's coming up, the Rare Disease Conference that's coming up in June in virtual. So that's the link there if you're interested in that. And then I just heard from Josie Fu yesterday that there are some stipends available from Navajo Family Voices. They're doing a kinship team vision and for Dene families in New Mexico or those near the Navajo Nation. And those submissions are going to be open from May 10th through May 30th. And there's more information on their website about what needs to be submitted for that. And those are for children, families of children and youth with special health care needs. So if you know of anyone that might be interested in that or would like more information on that, I have more information we'll be posting on social media. So I'm going to stop there for a second. Does anybody have any questions about
yes,
any of that? Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, it's Hanan. I was wondering, this is a whole lot of amazing information. Is it possible to send maybe just the slide with all the information on it in an email so that we can have quick access to it?
Great question. Yeah, great question. Great question, Hanan. Yeah, so I post all the slides to our Genetic Ambassador tab and the recordings to our Genetic Ambassador tab. Give me a day or two because I have to download and upload to YouTube, but in a day or so, they should be up on our website. There's a For Families tab. Actually, you gave me a great a great intro there. Right there's the slide. So that tab right there for families, if that drops down and there's a genetic ambassador tab where all the archives of our previous meetings can be found, including the slides. Does that work?
This is perfect. Great. Thank you so much.
Perfect. All right. And the other thing I want to mention, I think most of you are part of it, but some new folks are on today. So if you would like to be part of the Genetic Ambassador Facebook group, that gives you an ability to connect with other people, feel free to email me. I'll have to send you an invite to be added to your email that you log into with your Facebook account. So I send it right from the Facebook app. So if you are not in that group and would like to be in that Facebook group, it is a private group. And I share things that are coming up or urgent things I tag people in. So just to let you know that it's there, but it's a great way to be able to connect and friend other people as well. And then last but not least, the newsletter is coming out. This is a snippet of the March one, but the April one should be coming out by the end of the week. If you are not getting this or you're not seeing this in your email, please let us know. It comes out through Constant Contact, so sometimes it gets in people's spam or junk folders, so you just have to drag it over to your inbox to see it every time. These are also archived on our website. But if you are not getting these, please let us know so we can make sure and check that your name's in Constant Contact. As I mentioned, Joyce Hooker is retiring. We are planning a little bit of a surprise retirement for her on Thursday, May 6th, and you should have received, if you're receiving our newsletters, you should have received a link to a form where you can RSVP for that. If you did not get that, please email me and I will send you the link so you can be part of that if you would like to wish Joyce well. And with that, this is my favorite quote: "The genetics wilderness holds answers to questions we have not yet learned to ask." And I just want to thank you guys so much for the conversation today and all coming together in our region to try to figure out what those questions are we haven't even asked for families yet. So I appreciate your time. I'm going to put my contact information up here. You can get me by text, phone, or email, and I'm in the office Monday through Thursday. So if you email me on a Friday, just give me till late in the day Monday to answer all those emails from Friday. So with that, I will ask if anybody has any questions or thoughts. I see a couple here in the chat. Daphne, you said, please send us this information. Were you referring to something that I said?
No, it was the conferences that are coming up.
Okay. Are you
I
okay?
want to post those.
Okay. Are you okay if when I post it, I'll give you I'll ping you that it's up.
Yeah, I want to post them. So.
Okay. Great. And thank you, Cody, for putting in that genetic ambassador link. That's where all of our stuff is archived. But great discussion today, everyone. And I just appreciate you all and all your interest in some of these new projects and new initiatives we have going on. So it's been a busy time as we wrap up our grant year end, but all exciting stuff and momentum to shoot us into year 5 or year 2, depending on how you're counting. So does anybody else have any comments or questions or thoughts?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Oh, Christy, I was going to say there's a couple of things that you mentioned about being able to participate that might apply to some of us. Could we just email you and just say, hey, I'm interested in the, participating in these events?
Yep, that's perfect. Yeah, just email me and let me know which things you're interested in, and I'd be happy to, get on a call or email you back more details.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for having me today.
Oh, I'm glad you joined us. Thanks, Hanan. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Absolutely. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Christy, Cody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.